Hi, I'm Linda Treadway with eXp Realty, and this is going to be the last video of my series, The Pros and Cons of Multi-Generational Living. And in particular, I'm referring to senior family members and friends. So whether you are considering having a family member or friend move in with you, or you moving in with them, these videos are for you. Mom and I started these 5 years ago when we moved back to League City. We had already been living together for 4 years. We kind of laughed about the trials and tribulations that we learned along the way, but it was working out pretty good. And for the most part, my mom was healthy. But within a few years after we moved here, her health mentally and physically started failing, and so we just got to the point I couldn't put her on camera anymore. In December of last year, Mom fell twice, and it looked like nothing at the time, but when we took her to the ER, we found out that she had 4 fractured ribs and 2 punctured organs. She was admitted into the hospital. She went straight in for the surgery, and I'll never forget the doctor coming out, and he did not downplay this one bit. He was like, her first 30 days is going to be absolutely miserable. Her next 4 to 5 months is going to be extremely painful, and that's hoping that we can get her back to where she was. All right, so with that, we sit in the hospital for 5 days as we watch her screaming in pain every time they literally touched a sheet that touched her body. That woman was in so much pain, it was just horrible. So finally, she was sent home on hospice, and then she died on December 22nd. So the purpose of this video is just to kind of answer, again, a couple of basic questions now that it's all said and done. And the first is, how hard is it to take care of a senior? Well, I'll be frank with you, because I've had a lot of conversations with friends that have considered this, and it really depends on the relationship that you have right now with that person. If this is somebody that is confrontational, that is angry, that hurls insults, that throws things, I don't recommend it, because it's already hard enough, and that is literally going to tear you down to the quick. Plus, it's not fair to any family members that are also living there, and it's not safe. So at that point, I would consider a facility that can help her, so that when you go see them, then you have quality time instead of just dreading having to walk in the front door. Now, if you're lucky enough to get someone like my mother, my mom was this easygoing, optimistic, I don't want to be a burden type of person. And for 40 years, she suffered in pain. So she was pretty well used to it, if you can get used to it. But I found that it was a real privilege working for her until this last year. And then this last year, things got difficult because she had gotten really sick. She never really recovered from that. And all of a sudden, I'm kind of the reason for why she can't drive anymore, for why she can't go on a cruise anymore. You know, it just, everything was my fault. And that's difficult, because I feel like, you know, I was giving up so much to help her. And then on one hand, I'm thinking it's not appreciated. On the other hand, I know it is appreciated. It's just her frustrated in voicing her feelings. That's with an optimistic person. So understand that as time goes on, even someone that is the sweetest person you know, those good times are going to eventually turn into bad. And you will have plenty of bad days before they pass. So it's something to think about, you know, as far as safety factors for you, mentally and physically, and your family. Okay, when you look at the overall, I would say all 8 years, what is the hardest part? The hardest part for me was twofold. One was watching my mother suffer day in and day out with no relief, and getting worse as every day goes by. It never got better. It always got worse. It was slow, and it may speed up and then it slows down, and speed up and slow down, but it's still there, And once she got to that certain pain point, it never really got better. It just kept getting worse. So it's hard to be happy when you see someone that is living in constant pain. The second part of that is, I think, sacrificing the one-on-one time that you have with your spouse and your family. So, for instance, for the last 2 years, Leroy and I just gave up trying to get out because, you know, if you do anything for fun, you feel guilty because she's not there and you are. We only took 2 vacations in 9 years, and they were short vacations because you're packing and she's sad because she can't go, and I'm sad because she can't go. And then you're on vacation and you worry the whole time, and you can't leave them alone, so you've got to have family or a paid worker to come in and stay with them during all this. All right, so that was difficult. And as a caregiver, I want to warn you, you will become really housebound as they get closer to their dying point. And this can be difficult for you as a family and for you with a job. Even going to the grocery store was a major deal. We eventually were fortunate enough to be able to hire help for her so that I could get some relief. But, you know, on the weekends, we never went anywhere because I can't afford to hire help 24 hours a day. And just to do it Monday through Friday was $6,000 a month that insurance doesn't want to pay. So, you know, you got to kind of figure out what you can and can't afford, and then what's best for all of you. Now, another question that I guess get asked a lot is, how do you stay so happy? How do you keep your sanity? And I can tell you that everybody has their limits, some more than others. Once I reached mine a year ago, we hired a home health care person to stay with my mom Monday through Friday from 9 to 6. She fired a ton of them before we finally found someone that she truly liked. And then she ended up in the hospital. This was back during the COVID days. You didn't have much help in there. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to hire someone 24 hours to service her, because the nurses were like, you need to give me 30 minutes notice before you got to go to the bathroom, and then give me 30 minutes to get in there. So you're looking at an hour before you can get anything done. Okay, so enough about that. Okay, so then let's say they're in the hospital and they're not going to get better. All right, how do you know when hospice is the right thing? And I will say point blank, it's when there are just no more answers. So like for my mom, they're talking about a painful 5 to 6 months. Maybe she'll get better, maybe she won't. And my siblings and I both had a very good understanding of what my mom wanted. And that was, I'm already suffering enough. I don't want to suffer to my death. So we were kind of getting ready mentally, but you just really don't want to think about it if you don't have to, right? Okay, so we decided that hospice is the humane thing to do for her, and it's what she would want to do. So, you know, all she'd say is she'd be screaming in pain, and I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. So finally, we told her, you are going home, and you are going home on Friday. Friday, she wakes up. She is clear. She starts eating for the first time in days. She sits in a chair, unassisted. We couldn't believe it. And even her doctor came by and was kind of like, what the heck? But it was really interesting because she was like that all the way until she got released and sent home. And then when she got home, they're bringing her in on a gurney, which she normally would be screaming on. And she's just kind of grimacing a little bit and laughing and talking and so excited that she's home. So my brothers and sisters were all there, and they had a wonderful last evening with her. But every time they come out of the room, they're like, what's going on? So we decided, let's just wait and let's see what tomorrow brings, and we'll decide from there what we really need to do. Well, the next day she wakes up. She's in total delirium. and in horrible, horrible pain. So she was sedated and allowed to sleep. And we're thinking, okay, well, let's see if that helps. Well, she woke up and she'd cry in pain. They would sedate her. She'd wake up, she'd cry in pain. They'd sedate her. And finally, they just kept her sedated. And then she died 4 days after that on December 22nd. So, I guess the question now is, okay, how is the family doing? How are we feeling about the decision that we made putting her on hospice? And I can tell you that we all have different ways of grieving. For me, I am sad that I lost my best friend. She always has been. But for my mom, my heart is joyful because she is now in heaven. Her prayers have been answered, and she's out of pain for the first time in 40 years. So I personally have no regrets. My brothers and sisters, they have no regrets because they saw her struggle so bad. And this was a long time coming. I mean, we could see it coming. We didn't like it, but it is what it is. So I was prepared. They were prepared. And the best advice I can give you is so should you. Make sure you understand the person that you are going to be responsible for, what their final wishes are. Do they want to live all the way to the bitter end until literally the life of them is just sucked out because they're fighting and they're trying? Or do they want to forego, any resuscitation issues and stuff like that and just basically die in comfort when they know that they're going to die? And that was something that we had made very clear with Mom, that we wanted to know her wishes. So everybody knew there was not an issue with this at all, thank goodness. And so now we're just sad. But overall, if you ask me my thoughts about all of this, I would say zero regrets, zero. Even during the hard times when we were all living together, zero regrets, because I just always felt fortunate enough that I was healthy enough to be able to do this and take care of her. I knew that my time with Leroy would come, and it's here. And I knew I was doing the right thing. Family is all we got. So if you can help someone like that, it's a huge, huge undertaking and something that they may not say, but they will always be forever grateful. But you need to think about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because there's a lot of ugly out there that's involved in this. I'm lucky that we're older and it was a little bit easier to manage. I can't not imagine trying to do this with young children in the house. There's just too much going on and too much responsibility. So something for you to think about. I hope you never are faced with this, but more than likely you probably will be. And it's a long road, but I treated my mom the way I would want to be treated and the way that I hope I am treated when I get to her stage in life. My name is Linda Treadway. I'm with eXp Realty. God bless every single one of you guys. And see you soon.